Thryn ran. Even with his armor enhancing his strength, it was not the easiest of activities. As an arch-warlock, things like physical activity were usually left for Skrye acolytes, scurrying about the labs and battlefields, doing their warlock master's will for fear of horribly violent death. Sadly though, today that really wasn't an option, as he was pretty sure every single one of his acolytes was dead. It was supposed to be a quick and easy scavenger mission. He had recently discovered an old Duerden storehouse of some sort. A magical storeroom from the Age of Myth kept away from any known holes for whatever reason. Curious about what it may contain, he had headed an expedition to go to its location and crack it open. However, there was one snag. The warehouse was surrounded by a stone of such strength, even his most powerful warp grinders couldn't breach it. Either some rare natural substance, or a material created with techniques now lost to history. Either way, it forced him to send his engine coven overland to reach it, making him feel extremely exposed. Thankfully, except for the odd grot attack or two killing a few expendable slaves, he encountered no issues along the way. Arriving at the location, and spending days looking for his actual entrance, he chittered in joy as he finally blew it open and smelled the satisfying smells of stale air and opportunity. What he discovered inside was beyond his wildest dreams. The storehouse contained rune-covered weapons and gear-powered artifacts created during the heights of the Khazalid empires, when the Duerden were truly a force to be reckoned with, and not the pathetic, dispossessed fools they were now. Why these artifacts weren't used when the empires were being wiped out by chaos he didn't know or care, but he knew these were items he would study, melt down, and transform into truly impressive weapons. He was a few hours into rummaging through and piling up various objects when the attack began. Thryn wasn't an idiot. One doesn't get to his ripe old age and position by not planning for everything. He suspected there would be some sort of magical warning sent out when he blasted open the doors, allowing some Duerdens to become aware of their lost storehouse of ages past and try to claim it once again. As such, he had positioned his various cannons and weapons teams in front of the storehouse entrance, all positioned in such a way that guaranteed overlapping fields of fire on an enemy that was foolish enough to assault them. And while the theory of Duerden retaliation held true, what he didn't expect was that those Duerden would be Caradhran overlords. Instead of the steady but slow feet of hammerers and longbeards marching across his specially crafted killing fields, it was a half a dozen Duerden strikecraft dropping dozens of mines, quickly devastating his forces before they could reposition, and turning his minions and machines into bloody scrap. After the ships above finished bombing the entrance, teams of Duerden wielding rifles began storming the storehouse. In a panic, Thryn ordered all of his remaining cannons and weapons teams within the various storehouse rooms to turn off any limiters and overcharge every generator, ensuring that he would destroy the Duerden forces with overwhelming firepower, while calculating only 10% of his machines would suffer catastrophic failure. Sadly for Thryn, his calculations were off by about 90%. Whether through acolyte inattentiveness or his warlock commander's incompetence, every single machine capable of failure did so, causing Thryn to flee as quickly as possible from a barrage of explosive equipment failure, fleeing that led to a large room filled to the brim with mountains of artifacts he had only begun sorting. Over 24 Caradhran walked into the chamber, rifles raised and ready to destroy the warlock who they saw standing pressed against the opposite wall. A warlock that smiled as he quickly pressed a button on a panel. Lines attached to the panel led to various points within the artifact piles, ending in the bombs the paranoid Thryn had prepared just in case. The bombs exploded, turning the piles of ancient Duerden artifacts into shrapnel that tore into the Caradhran overlords, leaving one sole Duerden barely conscious and clinging to life. Walking up to the Duerden, Thryn slowly raised his arm and made sure he could see the shock in the Duerden's eyes before activating his warp gauntlet, the cone of fire roaring out and roasting the Duerden alive. Although Thryn knew he should have taken that opportunity to flee, he wanted to make sure he honored the words of one of his old warlock masters. "No matter how bad your stupid minions fail, or how badly your stupid enemies interfere. Always make sure to enjoy the small things. Yes, yes. Mad scientists and gunslinging sociopaths, the Skaven of Clan Skrye revel in technological mayhem, combining their skills in engineering with a passion for violence to create devastating, if occasionally explosively defective weapons of war. Gathering in groupings called engine covens and led by warlocks of differing murderous specialties, they are a threat to any enemy on the battlefield. Because of their talent for violent machinery, the clan has become rather wealthy, crafting tools and weapons used by many of the other Skaven clans, wealth they use for even more experiments and even more devastating weapons. For unlike many of the other clans, there is no overarching goal, no grand plans to lead their clan to greatness, only the thrill of creation, and the testing of those creations on those unfortunate enough to be in their way. The greatest of the warlocks of Clan Skrye are the Arch-Warlocks, not only geniuses with machines, but also able to navigate the tides of assassinations and political maneuvering that categorizes Skaven society, making them the most devious and creative of their kind. They wield a powerful Stormcage halberd, which they can enhance with only a minor chance of deadly failure, a warp-fire gauntlet to scorch their foes with flame, and are capable of unleashing a warp lightning storm on all who stand in their way. Warlock Engineers are the most generalist leaders of the clan, working on the various types of machines the clan creates. They wield warp-lock pistols and a warp energy blade when forced into combat, and although less powerful than their Arch-Warlock leaders, are still capable of unleashing a devastating warp lightning attack. Warlock Bombardiers are those warlocks who have a passion for explosions, focusing their research into enhancing their knowledge in this area. The pinnacle of this technology is the Doom Rocket, able to release an explosive shell of immense power, with only a minimal risk of it blowing up in the warlock's face. In Skaven society, there are few things more suspicious than a helpful assistant. Doing the various jobs warlocks find beneath them, the Skrye acolytes fetch, carry, tinker, and do whatever is required of them from their warlock masters, all the while waiting for their chance to become warlocks themselves. Whether that's accomplished by gaining the favor of a patron, or killing their warlock lord and taking his place. When in combat, they scurry across the battlefield in gas hoods, robes, and goggles, wielding poisoned wind globes that they throw at the enemy, the glass globes shattering and choking the life out of many. Bought as nascent rat ogre pups from Clan Molder, storm fiends are pumped full of warpstone-infused chemicals and bonded with warp-laced armor as they grow, turning them into larger and more intimidating versions of their more fleshy brethren. Upon their backs are attached the brains of specially bred Skaven, the extra brain power allowing the storm fiends the focus they need to wield the variety of weapons they are known for. Doomflare gauntlets to destroy charging enemies, Grinder Fist tunnelers to tunnel behind enemy lines, Shock gauntlets whose electrical attacks can occasionally cause linked explosions, warp fire projectors that unleash warp fire, and windfire launchers that engulf the enemy in poisonous gas clouds. Not to mention rattling cannons that lay down a tide of warpstone bullets at anything they are pointed at. A warpstone-infused alchemical concoction is the source of the devastating power of the warpfire thrower. When the liquid is released from the nozzle, it reacts to the air, bursting into flame, turning any nearby enemies, and on occasion allies, into screaming puddles of flame. The rattling guns are multi-barreled death machines. Using a combination of warp steam and a hand crank, they unleash a stream of warp bullets into the enemy. When the rattling team gets desperate, however, they remove the gun's gimbal limiter, unleashing even more warp lead at the enemy. However, this comes with quite the risk, as there is a good chance the gun will blow up and blast a Skaven full of holes instead. Originally made to simply clear tunnels, the Doomflare is now a ball of whirling death, its various blades turning the enemy into pulped flesh as the Skaven rides into them, as long as the Doomflare riders are careful to not let the vehicle stall in the middle of the enemy. The Warp Grinder has become a popular tool for digging behind enemy lines. It's an especially popular purchase, For those Skaven of Clan Eshin, who use it when they find their usual stealth methods not up to the task on a particular mission. Like all Skrye weapons, however, overuse can cause unintended consequences, and if the weapons team takes too long, they might find themselves, and those following them, buried underneath the tunnels they had tried to create. There are a few devices that evoke the feelings of mad genius and machine-based brutality as the Doom Wheel. Powered by 2 Skaven on treadmills and guided by the Skaven engineer in the center, it uses its grinding wheel and a warp stone-powered ray in the center to unleash warp bolts on their enemies. When in need, of course, the engineer can try to push the Doom Wheel past its limits, pushing for more speed from its runners, or more warp bolts from its warp stone core. Of course, this may lead to violent reactions from the Skaven runners, or an unintentional warp overload from the overtaxed warp stone core. Immense cannons powered by a massive warp stone. The warp lightning cannon blasts a hole through anything that stands in its way, which makes it ideal as a siege weapon, as most gates, walls, and surrounding defenders turn to warp-tainted dust when fired upon. Although the power output can be a bit random at times, at its most powerful, it can punch through the largest creatures in the thickest armor with ease, and if the Warlock deems it worth the risk, it can up the output for increased damage with only a minimal chance of core overload. Long-range snipers. Warlock Jezzails are 2-manned, or Skaven, weapons that shoot a warpstone bullet across the battlefield. The powerful and usually well-aimed shot can take out important battle leaders or annoying powerful individuals from the safety of a long distance. However, not all enemies go down with a single shot, and when that happens, the Skaven depend on their Pavis to protect them from harm just long enough to prepare a second and hopefully final shot. To be a Skaven of Clan Skrye is to be masters of technological mayhem, to always be aiming to craft the next murderous device, and test them on the realm's unfortunate inhabitants. Hey guys, before starting out I want to say sorry for mispronouncing Clan Skrye. I don't know why I kept calling him Skrye throughout the entire video. I'm just gonna blame warpstone dust or something. Probably warpstone. Anyway, I hope you liked it. If you like it, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so you know whenever I post a video, etc., etc. If you like it, consider giving to my Patreon. The extra money gives you the time I need to work on these stories I love. Or if you want to give a one-time donation, I also have a Ko-fi account in the link below. Anyway, thanks for listening and see you next time.